Very good morning to everyone. Welcome to Medical Pathways. My name is Trevon, and this is an information session with regard to Australia universities. We have 5 of the prestigious group of 8 universities from Australia who will be doing their presentations and willing to answer your questions. So we'll be starting it with University of Melbourne, then we'll have Monash University, University of Queensland, University of Western Australia, and University of Adelaide. So this session will go until about 1:30. So I hope everybody will stay with us. And also during the session, if you all have any questions to ask from the university representatives, you can send it through the Q&A box. And after we finish our session, the webinar, there'll be opportunity for you to speak to the university representatives one-on-one. So we will send the link at the end. Some of you have got the link for that. So whoever has not got that link, we will send it to you. So we got online, we got Miss Christine, who is the assistant manager in student placements for Australia. And we got Nisha as well, who is the manager, student placements, who will be conducting the program, the webinar. So over to you, Christine, to introduce the universities.
Thank you, Trevon. Okay, so first of all, we have the University of Melbourne here with us. Claire, thank you so much for being with us today to start your presentation. So University of Melbourne is obviously one of the top universities we have in Australia. It's situated in Melbourne, but I'd like to give it off to Claire just so that she can start her presentation right away. Again, just to highlight, if you guys have any questions, you can post them on the Q&A section below. All right, over to you, Claire. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Can you see my screen? I think so.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. Yes, my name is Claire Bingley. I work at the University of Melbourne. I'm the regional manager for Sri Lanka. I've worked for the university for about 10 years. And I do miss at the moment that I'm not able to come to Colombo and eat my favourite egg hoppers and see all my favourite people. Hopefully very soon we'll be able to travel again. I'm eternally optimistic. My email address is on the screen, so if you think that you might like to have a one-on-one consultation or stay in touch, please jot down my email address so that we can be in correspondence after today's session. So a little bit about the University of Melbourne. We're quite an old university, about 165 years old. The second oldest in Australia behind the University of Sydney. We are a sandstone university, so like the image that is depicted on the screen, we have lots of beautiful old sandstone buildings on our campus. Our campus was inspired by the universities of Oxford and Cambridge when it was being built about 165 years ago. At the moment, we have about 65,000 students studying at the university. What's quite unique about our student population is that about 50% of our students are undergraduate students studying bachelor's degrees, and about 50% of our students are postgraduate students studying masters by coursework, masters by research, and PhD. So it's quite unusual for a university to have that balance in their student cohort. Most universities in the world have many, many more undergraduate students. So our student cohort really is reflective of the curriculum that we have at the University of Melbourne, where there is a focus, especially for professional qualifications, a focus on doing some postgraduate study after the initial 3-year bachelor's degree. We have a really diverse student community as well. So about 42% of our students are international students, and they represent about 130 different countries. So the university is very multicultural, but that's reflective of what the city of Melbourne is like. It is a very multicultural, diverse and international city. Our campus, our main teaching campus is Parkville, which is located in the neighbourhood or suburb that's called Carlton. And it's very close to the heart of Melbourne's CBD. So you can walk from our campus to the middle of the city in about 15 minutes, or public transport will get you there in 5 to 8 minutes. So it's very accessible to all of the exciting activities that happen in Melbourne, the sports, the galleries, the museums, the festivals, and access to all of the world-class restaurants and cafes and good coffee as well. A few things about the university's reputation and ranking. So as was stated before, we are a top-ranked university both in Australia and overseas. But I think one of the rankings that we're most proud of is our graduate employability ranking. And this ranking really demonstrates how the University of Melbourne prepares students for life once they graduate. So their career, I suppose, working on enhancing employability during the degree. So not only providing a world-class education and a world-class qualification, but lots of opportunities outside of the classroom to develop leadership skills, public speaking skills, communication skills, learning to work with others. And so lots of those attributes that employers are looking for, you know, we really give our students a lot of opportunity during their study at the university to really enhance their employability, get connected with alumni, with industry, and gain lots of hands-on experience as well. So we're very proud of that graduate employability ranking of 7 in the world. So number 7 in the world, very proud of that. And at the moment we do sit above Oxford and Cambridge for that ranking. So a little bit about the curriculum. So as you can see here, usually students who start at the University of Melbourne will commence a 3-year undergraduate degree. And then for some professional qualifications, our students are required to do a little bit more study at between 2 and 4 years at a master's level to complete that professional qualification. As you can see in the undergraduate study, we look at depth and breadth. So I really want our students to have a deep set of skills around a specialisation or a major. So a very deep understanding of 1 or 2 areas, but also breadth. So thinking about your education from lots of different perspectives, you know, really developing a multidisciplinary education as well, which is strongly linked to that enhanced employability. So about 4 to 6 subjects over the 3 years can be taken as breadth. So the breadth subjects are taken from another faculty at the university, a faculty different to your home faculty that you're enrolled in for your major. A quick look at the undergraduate degrees. So we have quite a small list of degrees, but over 100 different study areas that sit underneath, I suppose, the more generically titled undergraduate degrees that we list here. So as you can see, a Bachelor of Arts is our humanities and social science program, nearly 40 study areas there. A Bachelor of Biomedicine, that's our health science program. A lot of students go into the Bachelor of Biomedicine to perhaps look at medicine, dentistry, optometry, or medical research. Psychology is in there as well. Our Bachelor of Commerce, that's our business program, business economics, marketing and management. You can do a double major in our Bachelor of Commerce. Our Bachelor of Design, 12 majors there, including a few engineering majors, architecture, urban planning, property, construction management, and a couple of really exciting ones, digital technologies, and a new one, graphic design. And then we've got our Bachelor of Science, a huge number of majors here, over 40 majors. All of the health science ones are in our Bachelor of Science as well, but engineering, information technology, computer science, all of the, I suppose, pure sciences, earth sciences, and animal science sits within our Bachelor of Science. All of these are 3-year programs, as I said, And basically, when you apply for these programs, you don't need to declare your major. So you can apply with an undeclared major, and you can even enrol in your first semester or even your first year of study having an undeclared major. So a little bit more time to have a think about what you want to specialise in, what you're good at, what you're passionate about, what career direction you want to take. Here's a quick snapshot of some of those professional qualifications I was talking about, the ones that might need a little bit more study after the bachelor's degree. So something like engineering, it's a 5-year pathway where our students start with 3 years. They do start their engineering from the first year, and then they do a Master of Engineering or a Master of Engineering with Business at the master's level. So 5 years for that one. I know engineering is a very popular discipline for students from Sri Lanka. Having a look here, to become a doctor at our university, it is an indirect entry program. So our medicine program is an MD, the Doctor of Medicine, rather than the MBBS, which is a direct entry program. So our students will study for 7 years, coming through perhaps the Bachelor of Biomedicine or the Bachelor of Science, and taking one of those health science majors, and then applying to study the Doctor of Medicine. And 3 out of those 4 years in the Doctor of Medicine, 3 of those years you will be based in a clinical setting. So you're very well prepared for your job once you graduate and for your life as a doctor. So a little bit about the entry requirements. So most students that I speak to in Sri Lanka are studying either the local A-levels or EdXL or the Cambridge A-levels. So you can see the admissions requirements there for each of those bachelor's degrees. And some of the degrees also have prerequisite subjects. So some assumed knowledge that we need you to have to be able to gain entry into the course. And one that I will highlight there is the mathematics requirement for the Bachelor of Commerce. That's one that tends to trick people a little bit. We really need to see a mathematics subject taken in the IB or the A-levels, or you will need to complete a bridging subject, perhaps between finishing your exams and starting at the University of Melbourne. Complete that bridging subject to meet the mathematics requirement. So the IB scores there and the Cambridge A-level scores listed here, those ones are guaranteed for admission. So if you achieve these scores and have the subject prerequisites, you will be made an offer at the University of Melbourne. So further information about admissions. So most Australian universities do tend to focus their admissions and entry on academic performance. The University of Melbourne, we don't consider extracurricular activities or leadership roles or sports or music or recommendation letters or essays when we're considering your application. So your admission to the University of Melbourne will be based on your final year of your secondary school education, so your academic performance. So we'll look at your 3 or 4 A-level subjects, your IB score. We'll look to make sure that you've got your English language proficiency, whether that's with a subject or an English language proficiency test. So admissions to most Australian universities and the University of Melbourne is actually very streamlined and quite straightforward. Similarly, with scholarships, it is also quite a streamlined and straightforward process, in that usually there are no separate applications for scholarships because they are based on the academic performance in your secondary school, or perhaps if you're thinking about master's level study, then we'll be looking at your GPA from your undergraduate or bachelor's degree. So again, most master's programs, yes, look at the academic performance. Occasionally they will have some extra tests or a personal statement, but again, not something we focus with extracurricular activities. Back to the scholarships though, we do have a number of scholarships, and as I said before, you don't need to apply separately for a scholarship. because you provide your academic results to us in your application, we have all the information we need to be able to make a decision about your scholarship eligibility. So you'll automatically be assessed. So there are some university scholarships, there are some faculty scholarships in particular. Our Faculty of Business and Economics and our Faculty of Arts have scholarships that they assess students for. There are some accommodation scholarships as well. So look, we do see so many bright students from Sri Lanka, so it can be quite competitive, I suppose, the selection pool or the applicant pool for, I suppose, consideration for a scholarship. In the past, we do in fact look at the 3 A-level subjects. So if you by chance have taken more than 3 A-level subjects, we will look at your best 3 A-level subjects and look at the numerical grade or percentage grade associated with each of those A-level subjects. As a guideline, students who have been eligible and awarded a scholarship in the past have generally had A stars in their A-levels, and, you know, perhaps a numerical score of 94 and above. So it can be quite competitive for the scholarships. So a little bit of information about the current situation. So the way things have perhaps changed at the University of Melbourne in recent times, and what we're predicting or looking ahead, and how we're perhaps, I suppose, going to provide you some key dates and updates that may impact you for your future study, especially if you're completing the IB or the A-levels this year. So just a few updates here that the semester 2 application deadline has been extended to the 12th of June. Semester 2 starts just a fraction later than usual on Monday, the 3rd of August. And we've also made some changes to the English language tests. So we're temporarily accepting the TOEFL IBT Special Home Edition test, and we're temporarily extending the validity of some of the other English language proficiency tests. We are also really happy to announce that we will be, I suppose, accepting the calculated grades for some of the key qualifications that many of you are studying, whether that's in your final year or not. But for those who've been impacted in their final year, we will be accepting the calculated grade for the International Baccalaureate, the IB Diploma, and the A-levels, including EdXL and Cambridge International AS and A-levels. So that's really fantastic news that we've been able to accept those for both the mid-year intake starting in August and for 2021. Right now on campus, our students are actually studying online, so we don't have a physical campus. We have transitioned all of our teaching and learning to a virtual campus. So, you know, we're trying to provide as much support as we can to our current students, and especially support to our international students who may have been impacted by, I suppose, the pandemic and social distancing and different business shutdowns, and many of our students have perhaps been impacted with casual employment and things like that. For next semester, we are planning to start our semester online. So that's for students who are in Melbourne at the moment studying as a part of our virtual campus. They will start their classes online on Monday, August the 3rd. But many of our, I suppose, our international students, those who are current students who perhaps returned home after the shutdown, or our new international students, we have many students who are deciding to kickstart their study and do a semester online in semester 2 before perhaps joining the campus in 2021. So I suppose all of this is dependent on how the government and public health regulations continue to change, and the advice that we receive from those different bodies. So I suppose there are two factors at play here: our ability to have that physical campus and have face-to-face teaching and learning and classes with social distancing measures in place. So I think our lectures will continue online because some of those lecture theatres can be quite large. So I think we will continue lectures online, but I think we are hoping to be able to transition back to a face-to-face campus for some of those tutorial classes and practical classes. So the other factor at play is obviously when our international students will be able to arrive in Australia. So there is much speculation that there will be a quarantine period for overseas arrivals of 14 days. So once Australia's borders open up and we are able to accept international arrivals, there will be further advice given along the way about what that might look like for our international students arriving, and any quarantine periods that need to be met before being able to join a physical campus. I think that's all the updates I have at the moment, but I think there's some questions that have popped up. I would love to take some questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Claire. Yes, we have gotten a few questions, which is really good. The first one, if I can start with, is to be able to study for the Bachelor of Science, is taking biology, English literature, and math enough?
English literature, biology, and maths.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. So the Bachelor of Science, we just need to have one laboratory science subject. So it can be chemistry, physics, or biology. And then, as you said, the mathematics requirement, we need that. And then English will meet the English language proficiency.
Okay, perfect. And we've got another question. I think this is more generic. They ask, can you explain more about the Masters in IT and scholarships, which you've covered already in your last few slides? But is there anything you'd like to add in terms of general information? What I'd suggest to this student who has posted this question is probably if the student can hang around and wait till the one-on-one sessions start later on in the session. I think that would be really helpful just to get more information based on his profile. But anything you'd like to add till then?
So there are scholarships at both undergraduate and postgraduate levels, some university ones and some faculty ones. So the Melbourne School of Engineering and IT do have their own faculty scholarships between $5,000 and $20,000 per year. In terms of computer science programs, if you're looking for a coursework program, you would probably focus on either the Master of Information Technology, the Master of Information Systems. We've also got a really popular Master of Data Science as well. So they're the three that I would recommend from a coursework perspective. But we also do kind of world-class research in this area at the university. So there is the Master of Computer Science, which is the research preparation program. And then there's obviously PhD programs as well.
Thanks, Claire. The next question is, what are the recognized BSc psychology programs? So if you could just speak about the psychology programs at the University of Melbourne and how it's different in terms of recognition rankings, just a brief answer, if you will.
Sure. Okay, so at the University of Melbourne, there are two ways to study psychology. Well, actually three now. So it's either embedded, the major of psychology is either embedded in a Bachelor of Arts. So if you're more of a humanities and social science student, then taking psychology within an arts degree is the best option. Or if you're more interested in the health science side of it, you could take the psychology major in either the Bachelor of Biomedicine or the Bachelor of Science.
Okay.
Now, in order to become a clinical psychologist, where you have an accreditation and are able to work, in that clinical setting, the pathway is actually 6 years. So you'll do 3 years at undergraduate, you'll do 1 year in an honours, so you'll have a research year, and then you'll do a 2-year Master of Psychology. So it becomes a 6-year pathway for that clinical accreditation. But many students actually take psychology as a major in their undergraduate program to then use in different industries. So something that's really popular to combine together might be psychology and marketing and advertising, so consumer behaviour. So having kind of a marketing psychology double major or set of subjects will enhance your employability, and then you'll be able to use that psychology perhaps in, you know, organisational psychology or consumer behaviour, things like that. But yeah, so there's, I suppose there's the clinical accreditation of 6 years, or there's fitting it into that 3-year undergraduate degree.
Great. Again, for the student that posted the question about psychology, if you do have any further questions, do stick around for a one-on-one session. I think it'll be really helpful just to get in your profile and understand it more. The next question we have is, what are the differences that will come about when applying as an Australian citizen from Sri Lanka?
Sure. So there are some differences. So the way you apply is different because you'll apply through VTAC, which is the Victorian Tertiary Admissions Centre. So you're applying as a domestic applicant and you go into a competitive selection with all the other students studying in Australia. So the way you apply is different and the timeline is different. So you apply through VTAC between the start of August and the end of September, and you get your offer a little bit later than your international colleagues. So the offer would come out in December or January for a start in late February, March. So how you apply and when you apply is different, and the fees that you will pay, that's also different because the Australian government subsidises tuition fees for domestic applicants. So you're going into that selection pool for a competitive selection for one of those government subsidised tuition fee places. So again, I'm happy to talk you through that a bit more. If you want to have a one-on-one, grab my email, we can chat a bit more. I've got some resources I can point you to that are online that kind of, it's like a checklist that will step you through all of those things you need to do to apply as an Australian citizen for study in Australia.
Thanks for that, Claire. The next question is, will the 2021 semesters also be online? Has any of that been confirmed as yet?
Yeah, so look, I hope that it's all speculation at this stage.
Yeah.
But I hope that we will be able to, even from next semester, as I said, so semester 2 starts on the 3rd of August. From then we hope to gradually transition from 100% virtual online teaching and learning to having perhaps mixed mode delivery across next semester. So as I said, perhaps having lectures online, but having some smaller class types like tutorials or practical classes, being able to have those on campus, on the physical campus with the social distancing requirements in place. So I would hope that as we get to kind of March 2021, that mixed mode may hopefully be more predominantly on campus, on our physical, being able to have physical teaching and learning and less online. But we have to see what happens over the next 6 months in terms of the number of cases, you know, if there was a second wave. And I suppose it's not just looking at what's happening in Australia, but what happens around the world. And if people are arriving in Australia from different countries, you know, we have to take all of that into consideration too. So I hope we're back face to face for semester 1 2021, but it is yet to be determined.
Understood. Thanks, Claire. The next question is, so most of the questions that we've got here are very much related to, I think, a student's profile. So what I'll encourage students to do is perhaps join our one-on-one session just so that we can get them answered individually.
Sure, sure.
And also, there's one question which I think is really important, which is how will the scholarships work now that the students are getting predicted results without a specific numerical mark as such?
So at the moment, usually our scholarships are awarded based on final grades. So at this stage, it looks like that we will still need to see the final calculated grade to be able to award a scholarship. But you know, I suppose I'm looking into a crystal ball a little bit. Look, there's already a bit of discussion about, you know, the difference between predicted grades and those final calculated grades. So yeah, it's something that we'll have to look at, I suppose, once those calculated grades are released in mid-August. I mean, that's for the A-level cohort. But normally our scholarships are based on those final grades. But we'll continue, I suppose, to have this discussion over coming months as those final calculated grades are released, and we can see if they are a reflection of the students' academic performance and potential.
Okay, great, Claire. I think because we're running a bit short on time.
Oh no, I know. I won't take Jack's time up. I'll let Jack get in here and say his bit.
If I've
just got my details there on the screen, so if anyone does want to get in contact and ask any more questions, just take down my email address and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Thanks for having me, everyone.
Thank you so much, Claire, for being with us today.
Pleasure. Look forward to talking one-on-one later on.
Awesome. For the students who didn't get their questions answered, please bear with us. You have a one-on-one session at the end of this, so please feel free to attend that. Thank you. Nisha, do you want to take over?
Yes. Thank you, Claire. Thank you so much. Thank you, Christine. So it was wonderful. So it's time for us to get Jack Johnson from Monash. So, hi, Jack.
Hi, I'm here.
Hi. Yeah, nice to see you. So thank you so much for joining in.
My pleasure.
And yes, we did have a good presentation from University of Melbourne. Now it's time for us to listen to the expert from Monash University. So I take pride in welcoming Jack Johnston, the Regional Manager, International Student Recruitment and Admissions. And over to you, Jack.
Great, thanks very much for that, Nisha. And hi to everyone in Sri Lanka. I'm Jack. I'm the Regional Manager for Sri Lanka in our International Student Recruitment and Admissions Office. And I'm going to talk to you about Monash University. So give me a second, I'll bring up my slides. Okay, so I hope everyone can see that. Nisha, are we looking good?
Yes,
yeah,
yes, Jack, you can go ahead.
Okay, great. Okay, look, I know universities in Victoria in particular are pretty well known in Sri Lanka. The University of Melbourne, who you've just been listening to, a very famous, also Monash University. So I'll run through some of this you may already know, but I'll run through a few sort of points about Monash. So we're a comprehensive public university, and we offer undergraduate, postgraduate and research level degrees. As with the University of Melbourne, we're a member of Australia's group of 8 research intensive universities. Monash is ranked in the world's top 100 universities. According to the QS rankings, we're ranked 58 in the world this year. And we're based in Melbourne. Some of you may know that we also have a campus in Malaysia. We have a study centre in Italy, and we have joint research facilities in India and China. So Monash is a fairly large university, and we have a fairly large international footprint as well. That's a picture of Melbourne. I'm sure some of you listening have perhaps been to Melbourne before, and I'm sure Claire did a fantastic job of talking up Melbourne. You know, it's one of the most livable cities in the world, and it certainly has a sizable Sri Lankan community. So if you do come and live and study in Melbourne, you'll find the experience very rewarding, and I'm sure very comfortable as well. Our campuses at Monash, our main campus in particular at Clayton is fairly large. As you can see, it's a green campus, and I guess you sort of characterize Monash as being sort of quite modern. There's a sort of typical buildings you might see on campus. That's another building you'll see at the Clayton campus. Some of our students live on campus and some of them live off campus. If you do choose to live on campus, there are lots of wonderful activities and things that you can do. You'll see the pictures here of the top right there is a typical example of student accommodation, the dormitories. The bottom left of your screen, you'll see a typical example of a student room. Students have a private room to themselves with bathroom and toilet facilities, and also a small kitchenette. There are great sporting facilities on campus, and there are lots of clubs and associations that students get involved with as well. Okay, a little bit about what students can study. So in terms of undergraduate degrees, but I guess this also applies to our postgraduate degrees. You'll see here on the left side of the screen, our 10 faculties at Monash University. So starting with art, design and architecture and going right through to our faculty of science. So we have 10 faculties and a lot of choice when it comes to either an undergraduate degree or a postgraduate degree or a research degree for that matter. And we have Sri Lankan students who've gone into every single one of those faculties. This may have been covered off before, but the intakes in Australia are a little bit different from the US and UK. We have a first semester intake in February and a second semester intake in July. Similar to, I think Claire mentioned, University of Melbourne's second semester intake has been pushed to the 3rd of August, and that's the same for Monash University as well. So our second semester is due to start on Monday, the 3rd of August. Now, in terms of admissions for Monash University, I guess unlike the US or some other countries, our admissions is it's academic based. It's based on minimum scores from your school or what you've previously studied at university. We don't have strict admissions deadlines for most of our courses. There are for a few, including things like medicine, but for most of them, we work on a rolling admissions process. Again, for most of our courses, there are no interviews or personal statements, the sorts of things that you might need if you're applying to a university in the US. Okay, scholarships. Everybody wants to know about scholarships. So at Monash University, here are 2 examples of some very common and popular scholarships for international students. The first one is the International Leadership Scholarship. 100% of your tuition fees would be paid. As you can see, it's limited. There are only 4 per year that are awarded, and that's globally. That's not just to Sri Lanka, but that's to any student in the world. Second, we have the Monash International Merit Scholarship. and that is $10,000 per year deducted from your tuition fees. There are 30 of these awarded globally every year. Now, to apply for one of these scholarships, you do need a full offer from Monash University to be able to apply. So it can't just be an interest in a particular course. You will actually have to apply and you'll have to have an unconditional full offer from us. In addition to our scholarships, we're also offering a limited number of financial study grants. These are one-off financial payments to assist students make the transition to Australia and to help them get set up and get started with their studies. They're worth 10,000 Australian dollars. The amounts may vary a little bit, but the maximum amount is $10,000, and that's deducted from your first year's tuition fees. Now, these study grants apply to semester 2 this year. For next year, we're hoping to have a similar arrangement, but we're still confirming those details, and we'll get those to you very soon. But if you are interested in semester 2, we do have those financial study grants available. Okay, I guess we'll just quickly go through some frequently asked questions, starting with the one that I've sort of already mentioned, and that's around the start date for semester 2. As I said before, it's Monday, the 3rd of August. Okay, so will I be starting online if borders in either Australia or Sri Lanka are still closed? So yes, that's definitely going to be an option for some students. If you are physically unable to be on campus, then that online option will be available to you. Will Monash accept high school graduates with incomplete results in 2020? So we know for the class of 2020, it's been a very challenging and anxious year. Similar to what a lot of other universities will do is we're going to look at predicted grades. So for example, from your A-levels, we're looking at 1 point higher than what our normal published scores would be. We can also look at a combination of final A-level results and predicted scores. For IB, it would be 2 points higher than what the published scores are. If anyone is studying something outside of A-levels or IB, I can try to address that a little bit later. Okay, will Monash College accept AS levels for the Diploma Part 2? So this is an option that some students look at when they're coming to Monash. You can do a Diploma Part 2, which will allow you to transition into the second year of your undergraduate degree. We will accept AS level scores going into our Diploma Part 2. And there are 2 sets of scores. On the left, you'll see the Diploma of Arts, Art and Design, and the IT stream within engineering and also science. You would need a total score of 7 from your best 3 AS level subjects. To enter the Diploma of Business and Commerce streams, Arts, Psychology, and the Engineering stream of the Diploma of Engineering, you'd need a total score of 9. So this is another option for students to look at. What is the deposit amount needed to secure my place at Monash? So normally when you, to secure a place and to secure a confirmation of enrolment at a university, you need to pay a deposit. Normally we'd ask for a 50% deposit. Because of what's happened this year, and to help students out a little bit, we'll be asking for a 25% deposit instead of a 50%. And we hope that will help people out a little bit. Okay, that's basically it. I'm happy to take any other questions that the audience may have.
Yes. Thank you, Jack. Thank you so much for the presentation. And we do have some questions asked by the, the audience. Let me go
Sure.
ahead with the first one. So we have a question received from one of the students, I guess. So what they have said is that the student has received a conditional offer from Monash for the February 2021. And
Yes.
would that offer will have any impact with regard to the current global pandemic?
No, that conditional offer still stands, and I'm not sure what the specifics are, whether it's based on English or academics. It would still stand. I think the question probably on everyone's minds is, will borders be open, and will the student be able to physically come and study? We're hoping that will be the case. Australia, compared to a lot of other major destinations around the world for students, is in a relatively good situation. And so we're hoping that our borders do open up. Whether borders in Sri Lanka also open to allow students out, that's another question. But again, if students aren't physically able to be on campus, then we're going to look at an online option for them.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Jack. And there's another question, which is a very, very important question. It's all about post-study work permit. So the student is asking that if I choose to study online for the second semester, will that have an impact on the post-study work permit that they later on that he would be eligible for?
Sure. Look, this is a question that we've been getting a lot of recently, and I guess particularly postgraduate students are very keen to know the answer to this. As for universities providing the answer to this or information for this, it's actually the Australian government who sets this policy, and we're guided by them. At this stage, I haven't seen anything in writing either confirming either way. So until we do see that, it's a little bit, we're just speculating a little bit. But I would hope that any online study that's completed initially wouldn't affect that time. That's my hope. But until we actually see that in writing, then we don't know the actual answer to that yet.
Okay. So this is just to let you know that we'll be taking out the generic questions to Jack right now. All co-specific and the individual specific ones could be taken later on one-on-one session. So there's another question. How about the scholarship opportunities in IT who has good academic performance?
So as I mentioned in my slides, there are two ways to receive financial assistance. One way is through the general scholarships to the university. But whether you're applying for IT or business or engineering, you're competing against everyone else. They're based on merit. They're good scholarships, but they are limited. So you do need very good grades, and at the end of the day, you're competing against other applicants for those scholarships. So there is no, if a student said to me, Jack, I'm getting 2 A's and a B, or whatever their scores are, there is actually no way for me to say whether they would get a scholarship or not, because at the end of the day, they are compared to other applicants within a pool of scholarship applicants. So that's one way. So the higher your grades, the better chance that you have. In addition to that, we do have our study grants, and we're certainly for the $10,000 study grants, and we're certainly offering those for semester 2, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to roll those out for semester 1 next year as well.
Okay. And the next question is, what are the postgraduate or BSc in radiography programs you offer? Programs related to radiography, medical screening, imaging.
Sorry, is this for a undergraduate or?
They're asking both postgraduate as well as undergraduate.
Right. Okay. Nishia, is it okay if I bring up another screen?
No problem.
Yeah. Let me just see if I can find the right one.
So on that note, while Jack is searching on that, so I would encourage all of you to post your specific question to the link which has been, shared by our team. So you can always join in with us with one-on-one session. So specifically with Jack, if you want to have a one-on-one session, you can join with him at 1:30. So while he'll be able to address you specifically on these names. So Jack, would you like to address this on the one-on-one session?
Yeah, I can certainly do that as well. And then I guess for whoever's asked that question, we can sort of go into a little bit more detail.
Yeah, so that
sure.
you can.
Yeah. Okay. That's
sorry about it, Jack. So the next question, I think this is a very, very, I think one of the important questions. So they're asking, like, if a student starts and accepts the offer to study for the semester 2 online, in case if the borders open up, will there be time for them to time given for them to process their visas?
Yeah, look, it's a really good question, and I think students are probably wondering this, and universities as well. That's really going to be down to the Australian High Commission there in Colombo. I don't have the latest information about how visas are to be processed. I hope that they would be done in a quick and efficient manner, but I think we would probably need to defer. So I guess any questions around visas or government policy, we're really going to need to double check with the government authorities.
Okay, I think the question is about, Jack, whether until this decision has been made by the High Commission, can the students still continue to study online?
Oh, sorry, yes. You don't need a visa to study online with us.
Okay, so say in the interim, if the student continues to study online and then say the borders are open and the student chooses to apply for visa, so there is a time gap from the time that he continues to study online. So what he's asking is whether he would be continue to study while having the decision being made by the High Commission until he gets a decision.
Right. Okay. I'm going to. I'll take that question on notice, and I will need to double check. And I'm happy to get back to that person through you. I'm not 100% sure on the answer of that.
Thank you so much, Jack. That's great. And there's one more question with regard to the Ielts requirement. So if a student does an Ielts indicator, will that be accepted for the undergraduate direct entry?
Okay, so at the moment, we are having the Ielts indicator assessed. It hasn't been approved yet. We have the TOEFL at home edition, which has been approved. Typically, our students will either take an Ielts or TOEFL or a Pearson test. We're in the process of approving Ielts indicator, and hopefully that should happen soon. But the one that is approved currently is the TOEFL at home edition.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jack. That's about it. So we might get more questions and queries for the one-on-one. So on that note, thank you so much, Jack. Christine, I would like to take you in, and then thank you so much for your time, Jack. And it was very
Great.
valuable. I hope everyone would have benefited also.
Thank you so much, Nisha. Thanks, Jack, for being with us. It was really informative. I'd like to move on to the next university we have lined up. We're really sorry about the wait, but we've got Mr. Ritwik, who is the Senior Regional Manager from the University of Western Australia. Hi, Ritwik. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks, Christine.
Thank you so much. I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'd like you to go ahead and start the presentation so that you have time to take up any questions that you might have in the end, if that's all right.
Absolutely. No worries.
Thank you. Awesome.
Get ahead straight away.
Okay.
All right. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm just turning 12 noon, so still in good morning phase, but hi and welcome to this session. It's a great opportunity to interact with some of the brightest minds from Sri Lanka, so I look forward to the interaction over the next hour or so. My name is Ritwik and I'm from the University of Western Australia. We are based in Perth. Perth is on the west coast of the country. So it's a capital of the state of Western Australia. Moving on further, we are one of the group of 8 universities, as you've heard with a few of our colleagues this morning. And we are also a top 100 university in the world. Now, a little information about why would you choose Perth. We are only 2.5 hours ahead of time compared to the Sri Lankan local time. We are top 10 healthiest cities in the world. Also one of the most affordable cities to live in. And in Perth, if you choose to study, you get a post-study work visa for 3 years. So that's some of the benefits of choosing Perth as a study destination. About the University of Western Australia, 67% of our undergraduate majors have a work integrated learning component built into the course structure. Also, we have very strong campus events and activities that happen on an ongoing basis. So just moving on further, this is the beautiful campus of UWA. We call it Crawley Campus. We are very conveniently located only 13 minutes drive from the city center. We call it Perth Central Business District. We are also very closely associated with the largest urban park in the world, Kings Park, and we have guaranteed accommodation for undergraduate students on campus. So we have a number of residential colleges like St. George's, St. Thomas More, Trinity College, St. Catherine's, and University Hall. We also cater meals, including breakfast, lunch, and dinner on campus for our students. And on an average, annual cost of living on campus, including meals, is close to $15,000. Okay. Moving on further, as part of your experience of studying at UWA, we encourage students to pursue study abroad program. Now, what this is essentially, during your bachelor's degree at UWA, whichever discipline you've chosen, you have an opportunity to go overseas and study at one of our partner universities spread across the globe and equal ranked as well. So you have equal or even best universities that you can spend a semester or up to a year and get a credit back to your bachelor's program. And there's no extra fee that you would need to shell out as part of this study experience, because we already have some agreements with our partner universities that you can avail this opportunity. Moving on to next slide, our undergraduate entry requirements. I'll just talk about A-level scores here. So the minimum score we need is 8 to get into a bachelor's degree for the best 3 subjects. We also have some direct pathways, as you can see. For example, if it's a medicine program, we need a score of 14 points to get into our direct pathway in medicine, which essentially equals to 2B, 2A and a B. Okay, so that's our entry requirements. Moving on to the scholarship, again, GCA levels. For example, the maximum scholarship UWA has is $15,000 per year, or $45,000 over the duration of a 3-year bachelor's degree. In order to avail this scholarship, we need a minimum score of 3 A's in your A-levels. Now, everyone who receives these grades in A-levels is eligible for scholarship. So we don't have a quota, and we treat every student equally in terms of their academic grades. In addition to the academic scholarships that you see on your screen now, we also have sports scholarships. So if students are passionate and are sports prodigies in your respective areas of interest, we do appreciate their competency, and we do have sports scholarship of equal amounts as we have for academic scholarships as well. So please keep that in mind when you choose to study your destination. English language requirements. Again, for A-levels, we do not need you to do IELTS or TOEFL as far as you have these minimum requirements in your English literature or English language literature. You don't need to do IELTS or TOEFL in case of applying to a UWA. Moving on further, so we have 3 distinct types of bachelor's degree, which are all 3-year in duration. First one, Bachelor of Arts. Now, Bachelor of Arts, we have 33 majors underneath, and including 9 distinct languages. So here is a list of all the majors that we offer in Bachelor of Arts. Ideally from Sri Lanka. Some of the popular ones that I can highlight we get students for are political science and international relations, psychology is one of the key areas, and also communication and media studies. So these are some of the popular majors students have chosen to study at UWA from Sri Lanka. The next one we have up here is a Bachelor of Biomedical Science, another popular pick amongst the Sri Lankan students. As you can see, we have a very strong health campus at UWA, which is connected with hospitals, institutes, and also medical research laboratories. In terms of biomedical sciences, we have some unique specializations sitting here, including exercise and health, genetics, pathology and laboratory medicine, microbiology and immunology is also gaining a momentum, especially with the COVID impact everyone has had in the recent few months. So these are some of the undergraduate majors that UWA offers under biomedical sciences. Another popular major and area that we get students from Sri Lanka is a Bachelor of Commerce. Now, Bachelor of Commerce, we are quite strong in the areas of accounting and finance, and we offer other majors like business law, economics, human resource management, general management, marketing, and professional economics. This is an equivalent to doing a double major, as we call it. So what I want to show you briefly now is how is the UWA degree structured. So here is a course model of a 3-year undergraduate degree at UWA. Each year you have 2 semesters. and you have an opportunity to choose a single major. In this case, we have given an example of marketing, or you can do a double major like marketing and communication and media studies, or marketing and finance. So even though you choose a single major or a double major, the duration of your program remains the same, and so is the tuition fee. Okay? Again, as a university, we do encourage students to pursue double majors rather than restricting themselves to a single major specialization. Even the employers in Australia prefer students undertaking double major and broaden their knowledge skills. Even though you have chosen majors like marketing, as you can see on your screen here, and media and communications, you also have options to pursue broadening units and complementary units, which are outside of these core areas. So here is an example of a student who has chosen to also study statistics, undertake and work integrated learning, or we call it internship during your bachelor's program, and also look at areas of psychology and economics along with the core areas he's chosen. So that way, students also gain understanding of how data can be used into business studies and may build competency towards business analytics, as an example, in addition to focusing on core areas of marketing. So this is a benefit of studying a flexible course at UWA with undergraduate programs, wherein students can choose major across the disciplines as well. The last degree we have here is a Bachelor of Science, and with Bachelor of Science, we have some distinct areas around data science, engineering science, computer science. We also have marine science, which is quite popular, mathematics and statistics, and psychological sciences. So just so you know, one of the well-known personalities in Sri Lanka, Dr. Asha Devos, who is a marine biologist, did her PhD at the University of Western Australia in environmental sciences. Okay, I guess that's pretty much what I wanted to cover off. Now, here is an example of last program that UW offers, which is a Bachelor of Philosophy. Essentially, it's a 4-year degree. So students who have achieved and perform relatively well in the first 3 years of bachelor's have an opportunity to undertake a 1 year of honors, which is a dedicated research in area of your interest and specialization. Now, 1 year of honors is also highly regarded within employment bodies also in Australia. So something to think about once you've finished your 3-year bachelor's, and if you'd like to go down the path of an honors program, we have that option available at UWA. So that leads up to the professional qualifications that UWA have across different disciplines. As an example, UWA offers an engineering program, which is a 5-year integrated master's degree in engineering. So it's a 3-year bachelor's of science and a 2-year master of professional engineering. Now, why we call it direct pathway is essentially that saves your time. Instead of doing a 4-year bachelor's and a 2-year master's, you do a 3-year bachelor's and a 2-year master's. So it saves 1 year of your tuition fee and 1 year of your time, and your degree is equally recognized in Australia, also globally. Similarly, for medicine, we have a 3-year bachelor's of biomedical sciences and a 3 years of doctor of medicines. So 6-year direct pathway followed by a 1 year of internship. If you're looking for a program in architecture, it's a 3-year bachelor's of arts with architecture major and a 2-year Master of Architecture or Master of Landscape Architecture. So this is how we've structured our professional qualifications at UWA. I guess that leads up towards the end of the session. It was fairly quick, but I look forward to heading to the Q&A session now, and also one-on-one interactions.
That's
so
perfect.
What
thank
are you,
so
Kristen?
much, Ritwik. Thank you so much. It was short, yes, but very informative. So thank you so much for touching on all the important factors. We've got just a few questions that I'm just going to read out across to you. The first one is from a student who has already completed a master's in IT, which is coursework, which is coursework based. And she wants to know whether she can join for a research-based master's in computer science, complete it for 1 year, and then convert it into a PhD.
Absolutely. So what we encourage students who are looking for a research program is there's a 3-step process to apply. One is we need a 250 words research proposal. Then we need a demonstration of research experience in the areas of expertise. For example, if they have any publications that will add value, though it's not mandatory to have. Along with the academic transcripts, you send across to an email address. Happy to mention that on the chat window. And then they get assessed by our research coordinators. So you don't need to go down the path of identifying a supervisor that way.
Right, understood. And would that student be able to complete that master's by research and convert it into a PhD a year later? Is that a possibility?
So that's something that the supervisor will make a call on.
Okay.
Once the supervisor know the level of experience the student has, and accordingly will decide whether the student can come in for a master's by research or also possibly directly into a PhD. So I'm just going to put that email address that student can send across the PhD application to.
All right. So for the student that posted that question, you can definitely send across, as Mr. Ritwik said, to that email address. But if you'd like more information in relation to your profile solely, do join us for a one-on-one session. I think it'd be really helpful. Coming back to the remaining external questions that we've gotten, there was a question that wanted to specify about the requirements on the scholarships, which you've already covered in your slides. Unfortunately, the student did not mention whether it was for UG or PG, but if you can just recap that on whether scholarships are being offered, that'd be great.
Yeah, so the scholarships that we have for undergraduate programs, I've already shared with you the screen. So we have scholarships starting from $15,000 each year for our undergraduate programs, which leads to 40% of the tuition fee being waived off. And we need a minimum of 3 A's to be eligible to achieve this scholarship.
Awesome. Okay.
Similarly, we have same amount of annual scholarship for postgraduate programs for Sri Lankan students, which is $15,000 a year. And we need a GPA of 4.0, so fairly high requirement.
Yeah. All right, that's perfect. I think that answers the question of at what rate the scholarship requirement would start at. The next question was, can students do medicine after A-levels? So I think that's in relation to one of the slides in the beginning of your presentation. How would the medicine pathway work?
Okay, so yeah, absolutely, students can join in for medicine program. I am going to share the screen again for your reference. So for medicine, we have direct pathway in medicine where we need a minimum score of 14 to be eligible to apply for medicine. In addition to this, we need a ISAT score as well. And because it's a professional qualification, we need an IELTS score of 7 with no bands below 7.
Right.
For medicine, application deadline is 31st of May, which is tomorrow, if you're looking to apply for February 2021 intake. For medicine, there is only one intake a year, which is February.
Okay. And how would that work with the current situation with our EdXL students, London board examinations with predicted results? Has the university given any alternative in this case?
Yeah, it's a very good point, Christine. So the University of Western Australia is going ahead and accepting predicted grades to be eligible to apply for now for this intake. So both A-levels and IB, we are going ahead with predicted A-level scores.
That's really good news.
Yeah.
The next question we have is very specific to a major you mentioned in Bachelor of Commerce. The student asks, what are the job opportunities for a business law major student under the Bachelor of Commerce program?
Okay, that's a very specific question to answer. So students who have undertaken a major in business law and which was the second one you said?
It's just business law under the Bachelor of Commerce.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right. So students who undertake a business law under Bachelor of Commerce are looking to work in corporate advisory roles. So as you know, we are based in Perth in Western Australia, and we have wealth of natural resources like iron ore, nickel, cobalt, gold, oil and gas. A few examples of such. Now, what happens is there's a huge investment coming from overseas into Western Australia, and as a result, there are a lot of contracts that are getting negotiated on commercial as well as legal aspects as well. And that's where a lot of our graduates get employed in management consulting firms like the Big Four accounting, including Ernst & Young, Deloitte, and KPMG, to name a few, but also mining and oil and gas companies that we have in WA. A few examples of those are Chevron, Shell, BHP Billiton, and so on. So that's where you're looking for opportunities. And these multinational companies have very comprehensive graduate programs, which goes over 1.5 years. As students work in rotations in their different disciplines, and then they get an opportunity to choose where they would like to pursue their careers. So yeah, the opportunities in, if you wish to go down the path of studying business law or just law on its own, it's good.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Roderick. That brings us to the end of the questions, as I can see. Thank you very much for making the time to be with us today and giving such a descriptive explanation for each of the questions asked. We really appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you. And
Thank you.
See you later. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. See you. So again, for the students that have any further questions and would like to arrange a one-on-one session with the University of Western Australia, we have posted the link on the chat. And you just have to click it and start the session at 1:30 later on after the presentations are done with. So over to you, Nisha, if you can introduce our next attendant.
Yes, thank you, Christine. So next we have with us University of Queensland. So I would like to welcome Daniel Takich, who will be, giving an introduction about University of Queensland and some important updates. So over to you, Daniel. Welcome to.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Cool. All right, everyone. Give me 1 second. I'll just bring up my presentation. Okay. Right. So, bear with me. All right. It's already begun. All right, away we go. So, hello, everyone. What I'll do now is just give you a very brief overview of the university, about Brisbane, and also about some updates, because obviously this year lots of things have changed. So we want to talk a little bit about student support, how we're supporting current students and future students at the moment here. Obviously you're hearing from many remote universities today, or with their very impressive rankings and things like that. I'll talk a little bit then just about Brisbane, where we're located. So I actually moved here about over 3 months ago. It's nearing sort of winter time in Australia, but actually you can't tell in Brisbane because the weather is so good. You can see up there, average temperature is very good. This is the third biggest city in Australia as well. You can see there 283 days of sunshine, so it's called the Sunshine State. This actually makes a big difference in terms of, you know, the mood and people outdoor living and things like that here. Okay, so it's actually a very, very pleasant place to live. Again, the cost of living, though, is going to be significantly cheaper than the likes of Melbourne or Sydney, where I know many of you are probably considering, because they have some very good universities there. But of course, the mostly rent is probably what you'll find much cheaper in Brisbane, despite it being the third biggest city in Australia. At the moment, we are teaching mostly online, but actually our campus, when it does reopen, is a fantastic location. It was actually voted one of the most beautiful. Okay.
Sorry to interrupt, Daniel. I think the microphone cannot be heard. Your voice is a bit unclear at times. So just wanted to.
Okay, I have no way of telling that.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay. All right. So sorry about that. Obviously, that's why I have text on the screen. So I did another presentation yesterday. There were no issues. So all right. As you can see, hear you now. Okay, I think it's just when I change the slide, sometimes it drops out. I don't know why. But yeah, beautiful campus, great place to study. Many universities, especially G8 universities, will talk to you about the level of their research rankings. What does that really mean? What does that mean for you? Here's a great example. University of Queensland was chosen as one of the centres to do the COVID-19 vaccine research. So this shows the level of research that we do, the connections that we do have, and the application of that research at a crucial time into the real world. So this is really, really powerful in terms of what you can do, what you can accomplish when you study at UQ. All right. So this is a fantastic example. They're working on this at the moment. They've received a lot of federal, state funding and funding from overseas as well. And because we have these very high level facilities, this kind of research is possible at UQ. And there are some rankings for you though. So you have there, again, most of the rankings, again, in the top 100 there, most of them in the top 55. Student population, a key thing I'll highlight here is that it's about 1/3 international. I think that's a fairly good ratio. Many of you wanting an international experience and an Australian experience, that kind of ratio is quite positive for that. We talked about the campuses before. So we actually have 3 campuses with really dedicated facilities. So the main ones we have the St. Lucia campus is our major one. I'll show you more in a second. We have a place called Hurston where they teach some of the medical programs, dentistry. So dedicated facilities there, right near the city. Then if you want to study something like veterinary science, we have a campus called Gatton, which is about an hour from Brisbane. And that's much bigger space for things like veterinary science. But this is our main campus, okay? So this is a St. Lucia campus. You can see it's very, very big. So massive sports fields, lakes by the river. You get the ferry here. The city is in the background. So very easy transport to and from the city. Mostly buses, about 20 minutes. But great sports facilities, great university facilities, what we have. So it's really, really good in terms of the experience you have. There's accommodation on campus. So very, very big campus. And like I said, one of the most beautiful in the world. Okay. That's the main campus you study at, St. Lucia. A key thing for many of you right now is really thinking, well, should I start my studies soon? You know, what will I get from this? We do have a very dedicated careers student employability centre. So you can see there some of the things we do. Examples, I mean, Queensland is a big state for mining and also engineering. We have fantastic connections with that, large companies here. It brings a lot of opportunities, like strong connections with the state government here in terms of health as well. So great opportunities for students through that as well. Again, being the #1 university in the state in so many areas obviously helps your employability. Queensland is again one of the fastest growing states in Australia. Some of the fastest growing cities such as Brisbane and the Gold Coast in this state leads to a lot of opportunities obviously for our graduates. But there are a lot of things you can do as part of the sort of student employability centre. which won't cost you anything, built-in services like the list on the left there, which again help you develop as you go through the studies with us. Also, each of our faculties will have dedicated employment staff as well to help you in terms of finding internships and things of that nature as well. So there's a lot of support around this area. And that's what I was just talking about, the Student Employability Centre. So fundamental things, but also things like the dedicated careers fairs, not just general ones, but also ones around for particular faculties as well. A key thing at the moment is assistance for students. So we obviously, parents and students at the moment are obviously very concerned with all the things that are happening in the world. It's changing very quickly. So we've done a lot of extra things, really. As you know, we switched to online teaching mostly partway through last semester. A lot of the support you can see we provide here in terms of mental well-being, some financial assistance, assistance with meals as well. Very quickly switching to online learning and making sure we have online student support. In Queensland, there also are a number of government bodies that can help with student support as well. So there's Study Brisbane and also Study Queensland. They've also been doing a lot of work in terms of supporting international students. It's important to consider this when you're studying overseas. Obviously, where can I get a lot of support? We have extensive support for you at our university through student services, but also what about at faculty level, and what about the community support as well? Obviously, Study Brisbane usually does events and welcoming for students. When that's not possible, they've been helping with international students who are currently here in terms of support hubs, in terms of, you see their assistance with meals and things like that as well. A lot of things to help students, again, who had to quarantine and help with meals. They stepped up their efforts. And we have also, obviously, you always think of people who study online, I was studying by myself, but we've done a lot recently to try and, obviously we have a very big campus. Usually there's lots of events and things like that. So we have, there's a Sri Lankan Student Society as well. Just ignore that slide, it says Vietnam, but we do have a Sri Lankan one as well. But we also have an extensive online community as well through UQ Life. So if you choose to follow our Instagram, you see that everything is several days. There's things on yoga, dance classes, and things like that, movie nights, to keep our students connected at this current time, when obviously you can't get into can't run some of the clubs and things. So we do a lot around that to help students' well-being and help them stay connected and build that UQ community. Usually whenever I do these kinds of webinars, I get tons of questions about scholarships. So what I recommend really is we have our scholarship page on our website. Really do some research on there, because there are many scholarships listed. We just launched a round recently, and if you've already got applied for that, then you should find out in the next 2 weeks whether you get accepted or not. If you're looking at 2021, we haven't finalized the international office scholarships yet. There should be an announcement about that in the coming months. So hopefully we'll have some more coming for next year, but they're not finalized. So stay in touch with Educo. Again, one of the advantages of applying early is that you'll find out about these scholarships first, and then you can always, you get an email directly from us. So that's if you've applied. Okay. But on our website as well, you'll see our scholarship page. You'll see there's a lot of scholarships, some for particular countries, some for particular schools or faculties or programs. So it's worth weighing through there to see if there's any for Sri Lanka, if there's any for your particular area of study as well. So there's a lot listed on there, and that changes each semester. So we don't just have general scholarships. A lot of the time it's by individual program, individual school may have particular scholarships as well. Okay. There's too many for me to list them all right now. So that's why I recommend looking at our website, because we do have quite a lot on there as well. Okay. But like I said, for the general ones for next semester, for 2021, not finalized just yet, but we will have, we are aiming to have some, and it should be updated hopefully within about a month, which will have an update on that. Okay. So yeah. And that's just a very, very quick run through introduction to us. I know that was quite quick, but hopefully that was okay, Nisha. All right.
Hi, Daniel. Thank you so much. But only issue is there was a small technical glitch from your end. We were able to hear you barely. I think when you turned towards your left, we were able to hear. But when you turned towards your right, we were, sort of having an issue with the.
Oh, sorry, I was doing one did one last night and I didn't have any issues, and suddenly I don't know why it's happening. So
Okay.
I'm not sure. I think it's just I don't know. I can't explain.
Okay. So sorry about it, guys. So there was a small technical glitch. So we have a few questions posted, Daniel. So would you be able to help with us
Sure, I
on
can
that?
try.
So we have one question with regard to the English language requirement for the semester 2. So are there any measures taken by University of Queensland in terms of accepting normal IELTS?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we know that IELTS centres, a lot have been closed recently. So actually they extended usually we accept as a 2-year validity on IELTS. So now we actually accept that can be extended for 3 years. We can look at it. There's also a series of tests. I mean, generally for undergraduate, we look at 6.5 overall and below 6 for most programs. Yes. But actually now we've actually accepted an additional range of tests as well, online tests that we didn't previously. So I can show you that list as well if you want.
Okay.
Yeah, just give me a second here. So where are we? Yeah, I'll show you that list because that's the easiest thing to do. All right, sorry, I'm going to fill up my screen. But yeah, we basically just say, I mean, it's obviously on the website as well, but we do accept an additional range of online tests that we didn't before. So these are all listed on the website as well. But there's a number of like password tests, things like that, which we didn't used to accept, which we now can as well. As well as that, some areas we can accept A-level English as well. So yeah, we've made a lot of changes to try and accommodate students. I know as well a lot of students want to ask about their results and exams, which have either been cancelled or things like that. We can accept based on predicted results as well for things like A-level and IB. Okay, so I know a lot of other G8 universities are doing that as well, and we are no exception to that.
Okay. So Daniel, when is the deadline deadline for the offer acceptance for the semester 2?
Okay, I'll just say that we are reasonably flexible because obviously we know many students are waiting to the last minute, and with it being the majority of our subjects being online next semester, obviously that gives you more time to decide. The intake begins on August 3rd, I believe, and then you have about towards the end of that month is the census date when you decide whether you want to keep going, and that way you confirm. But some programs we have are quota programs. So if you have applying for a quota program, sometimes things related to pharmacy and things like that, or health sciences, etc. So if that will say on the offer letter when you have to get by. Otherwise, it's just a matter of, again, accepting prior to the start date.
Okay. So there was another question with regard to accepting students on conditions. So there is this method that the students would get accepted on condition. That is, they'll be given a conditional confirmation of enrollment. Is the same practice available in Queensland, University of Queensland also? For example,
give me the example, sorry.
So for example, if a student had a condition to fulfill, say, the second semester of a diploma, and he'll be given a conditional offer provided that he would submit the conditional, the condition.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yeah, we do have conditional offers of that nature. So yeah, I mean, a lot of the students we have do apply, basically initially get conditional offers, and have to obviously finish their final coursework or their final exam beforehand. Again, applying early is kind of recommended really because it means you get the latest updates from UQ faster. So if we do have scholarship updates and things like that, you do get emailed that immediately if you've already applied. So that's why it's recommended. And if obviously if you're applying through Educo, we can waive the application fee as well. All right.
Okay. And also the question is whether the student can make the payment for the first semester on the condition that they've been given, or do they have to fulfill the condition?
Yeah, so you would need to accept the condition, otherwise, you would need to fulfill the condition. Otherwise, it basically creates issues around refunds and things like that. So yeah, generally you need to fulfill that condition first. Okay.
So there's another question saying, please advise if application fee involved. So basically, if you go through Educo pathways, definitely you'll be waived off from.
That's right. I'm a generous person, so I would give you the code to get the fee waiver. So yeah, so if you're listening today, just mention to Educo that you're on this seminar, and they'll get the code from me. So no fee there, no application fee there.
And also there is another question. So this has been you know, the common question asked by all the universities, Daniel, but I would like to ask some, you know, information from you as well. What do you think about the post-study work permit and the online learning for the students? Do you see it as a positive outcome, which will be?
I would assume, I mean, I'm just speculating at the moment. Obviously, asking your staff, I've obviously heard this question many times and speaking to the government about this. I mean, one would hope the government would see logically that students obviously, you know, committing their studies and obviously intended to come here, but obviously it's not possible at the moment. So why punish those students if they've done a degree and obviously eventually majority of it studied here? Then I can appreciate the student's standpoint on that. But in terms of a concrete answer, I can't give you because that's in the hands of our government. So I would assume obviously they'd see the sense in this. Obviously you see the universities, most universities have, you know, made a lot of changes and been quite flexible in some areas to accommodate the situation at the moment. And obviously we hope the government would do the same to reward those international students who really want to study with so many good Australian universities. So we have to wait and see, sadly.
Okay. So we have series of questions, Daniel, bear with us because we are getting a lot of questions. So we are trying as much as possible to, you know, give answers. So there's another question. If the travel ban is lifted around September, October, will on-campus classes resume?
Right. I mean, yeah, it's almost a separate thing, really, in terms of because face-to-face teaching may commence at the university sort of prior to that. That's, you know, something we basically work with sort of various health officials to advise when they think that's best and when the university thinks that'll be best, because obviously you don't want to rush that process. So the face-to-face may resume, but then when the borders open, again, is another area which we have to work through with our local, well, basically with the government here in terms of how that works. So what we're generally advising, if you're starting in semester 2, assume that most programs would be online, and that generally that you do that until that semester, and then hopefully there's better news for semester 1 next year. Obviously, you're going to think it's going to be challenging for a student to come partway through, because I imagine there'd probably be some quarantine regulations in place. So you're coming through, probably spending at least 2 weeks in quarantine potentially. So I would say if you're studying semester 2, assume you're going to be studying online rather than coming, upheaving your life partway through a semester, because obviously that's going to slow you down as well and complicate it. So we still have to wait and see, because the borders are still out of our control. And even at the moment, there are still restrictions between traveling between states in Australia. So we're really not sure. The government said they would look at this in July and review it in July, but then it really depends on how we progress before then. So it's really hard to speculate what that will involve. We've seen some countries open their borders saying everyone still has to go for 2 weeks quarantine, but no university's fully thrown anything open to international students yet, just because there's international travel restrictions. You got to think about there's flights, what flight availability there will be as well. So I'm telling most of our students, again, if you're looking at studying semester 2, focus online, and then hopefully everything should be in place for semester 1 next year.
Okay. And we have one more interesting question to you, Daniel. So by that, you're free to go. So it's from a student. Can an under 18 student study online in July? It's an interesting question. Under 18.
Students?
Can an under 18, a minor student, study online?
I believe if they've met the academic requirements, I believe so. Yeah, I mean, obviously, the majority of those students are under 18 typically are doing a foundation program, just finished sort of O-levels or something. But I don't believe there's any restriction on that if they're studying, because as long as they meet the academic requirements. Yeah, I mean, most of the rules regarding under 18 is that in terms of their accommodation and things like that, there's not really many restrictions academically in terms of whether a student's 17. So I believe so. It could be worth me double checking. It's the first time I've been asked that question. But off the top of my head, I don't believe, as long as you have the offer letter and then you get the unconditional offer letter from the university, then I believe you can. Okay.
And thank you so much, Daniel, for your support. And it was very, very informative. And you do have queries for one-on-one at 1:30. So we would let you know. So basically, we'll be sending you the link so you can join with us on that. So thank you so much once again. And over to you, Christine.
Thanks, Nisha. Thank you, Daniel, for the session and for bearing with us with our questions and everything. So thank you so much for joining us. Next up, we have the University of Adelaide. We have Mr. Nishant Vora, who is the Regional Manager of the University of Adelaide. Hi, Nishant, are you there?
Hi, Christine. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining us. So I'm not going to waste too much of your time, and I'm just going to request you to go on with the presentation so that you can take up questions at the end and then start the one-on-one sessions right after. Is that all right?
Perfectly works well. You just got to give me a minute to quickly.
Awesome. Nishan, just a quick thing, if you can. I can't really hear much of the volume. Are
you able to hear me now?
Oh, yeah, now it's perfect. I think it's just the distance between the mic. Could you just repeat one more sentence just to test it out?
Are you able to hear me now?
Yep, that's perfect. Thank you so much, Nishan. I'll leave you to it.
Just give me a second. I quickly need to share my screen so that.
Yeah, perfectly fine.
And there we go.
So while you're doing that, I'd just like to remind the students, for those of you who have questions or would like to speak to any of our representatives that have attended our session so far, do click on the link that we've posted on the chat so that you can arrange a one-on-one session right after the University of Adelaide is done presenting. Thanks, guys.
Sorry, Christine, apologies. Just give me
a
couple
that's
of
all right.
now because we're trying to share the screen. My system is just on, and I'm just trying to shut down the presentation and redo this again. There we go.
The volume is perfect right now, so that's great. Whatever you did worked.
Sharing the screen and let me just try, and for some reason I'm unable to share my screen.
Let me just check with our host as well. If you're having trouble, what we could probably do is if you could send the presentation over to us, we could probably.
I certainly can. It's just that it's a 29 MB presentation and compressing the file might still take time. Can you just check if the host has given me the option for me to actually share my screen? Because I'm not able to share my screen from here.
Of course, just give me a second.
This is Trevon.
Hi, Trevon. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I think you have the option.
No, can't seem to.
Isn't it allowing you to go to the sharing option?
No, it isn't.
What's the message coming up?
Hang on.
Oh yeah.
Go. Are you able to?
Yep, that's perfect.
Fine.
And are you able to see the presentation that I have here?
Yes,
sorry, someone will have to tell me. Okay, let me just. Let's see. There you go. So,
awesome. Thanks, Nishan.
The University of Adelaide. Basically, I'll start off with who we are and what we do. So we are the third oldest university in Australia. We have a history of about 140 plus years. In terms of rankings, we are ranked 120th in the world as the Times Higher Education ranking. And with QS ranking that recently came out a few months ago, we rank 106th in the world. What we've also done is we've highlighted subject-wise rankings. So 4 subjects we are ranked in the top 50 in the world, which is basically in mineral and mining engineering, nursing, dentistry, oral health, and veterinary sciences. Out of the, we've got 11 academic subjects in which we rank top 100 in the world: medicine, law, engineering and technology, agriculture and forestry, anatomy, physiology, earth and marine sciences, environmental sciences, accounting and finance, geography and philosophy, and 8 academic subjects we are ranked in 150 in the world: architecture, computer science and information systems, economics, biological sciences, psychology, mathematics, physics and astronomy, and education. And these rankings are basically from QS rankings. So these are QS subject-wise rankings. In terms, given the audience that we have today, we did a focus on our undergraduate program. programs. Basically, with our academic entry requirements across most of our programs, with the exception of clinical-based programs that's in dentistry, medicine, and nursing, the entry requirements are pretty much an 8R of 85 and above, which if you're looking at an A-level model, we are looking at about a score of 10, which is 2 Bs or 1A, 1B, and 1C. The minimum that we need is a C. We don't accept any subjects below a C grade. We also look at, irrespective of students having completed in A-level Cambridge or local A-level or IB, we still require students to have their IELTS, PT, or TOEFL testing done with a minimum requirement, which is equivalent to a 6.5, no band less than 6. There are certain subjects that require students to actually have a higher grade in their English language proficiency test. Again, your typical subjects like medicine, psychology, nursing, education, teaching, and some of our arts programs as well. Let me just move on to the next slide. We also have scholarships which are merit-based. We call them the Global Citizen Scholarships. Now, these are uncapped in number, and they're provided on an academic merit-based. Students don't have to apply for these scholarships. They are automatically considered as and when we receive an application. What we are looking for, so the Global Citizen Scholarships are basically bifurcated into two settings. One is 15%, which is offered for the entire duration of the program. And then we have a 30%, which is again for the entire duration of the program. Now, the entry requirements for these are an 8R equivalent of 80 for 15% and 8R equivalent of 90 for 30%, which if you look at it in A-level study structure could be 3 Bs for a 15% and 3 As for a 30% scholarship. There is an important thing to note here is that some of our programs, which is our MBBS, programs like dentistry, veterinary sciences, and certain psychology programs, we do not offer 30% scholarship on that, irrespective of the grades that the student has got, be it 3 Bs or 3 As, they still will be eligible only for a 15% scholarship. That's all from me. The presentation was more catered towards the basic requirements of academics, scholarships, and where we do in terms of our ranking. Just to add on top of that, we actually have a 5-faculty structure, pretty much like most other group of 8s in Australia. The Faculty of Arts, Faculty of Professions, which involves your business, economics, and wine studies and law. We then have the Faculty of Engineering, Computer and Mathematical Sciences. We have Faculty of Health and Medical Science, and then we have the Faculty of Sciences. That's it from my end, Christine.
Thank you so much, Nishan. It was very direct, but there are a few questions that we've received externally. The first one is, what is the deadline for medicinal applications, and are predicted results allowed for this? So I think predicted results from A-levels.
So unfortunately, the deadline for, our medicine programs, which is our clinical medicine programs, we only offer them in Feb. And the deadline for that was the 18th of May. So that has now passed.
Okay.
Because in theory, we basically only look at, historically, if you look at it, we generally take close to about 60 to 65 students a year from our international cohort into that. So one, the deadlines are over. However, having said that, for programs that have a deadline, especially medicine, dentistry, veterinary sciences, we do not consider predicted scores.
Okay, understood. The next question that's come up is, if I do an alternate English test to meet the requirement of the university, will I have to retake IELTS when the travel ban has been lifted?
When you say an alternate English language test, what would that be? Because we as an institution only accept IELTS, the IELTS home-based model, which has just been introduced, TOEFL, the TOEFL home edition, and PTE. Other than these 5, we do not accept any other English language test modeling.
Okay, so I'll just post a reply. I think since that's already answered live, we'll just go to the next one. How challenging is it how challenging is it to find jobs in Adelaide? So I think that pertains to part-time jobs.
Look, having been an international student myself, although this is donkeys years ago, having lived in 3 cities, well, now the third city of Australia, and having worked in again 3, I would say as an international student, I would flip that across with a question. Now, if a student from any other country or within Sri Lanka decides to go to different parts of the country itself, there is that expectation that you first identify what companies are there, figure out what the minimum requirements are. Certain companies basically advertise. So let's say your supermarkets advertise jobs as well. Now, some of those shifts could be the graveyard shifts, which is 4 in the morning. Now, not all students are comfortable doing that. So there isn't a straight answer to that. What I would advise students, and this is purely from my personal experience and talking to students that I continuously keep in touch with, is give yourself a good 3 to 4 months to find something. You might find something, and you certainly will find something earlier than that. But always remember that your first motive to go to Australia is studies. You don't want to be in a situation where upon arrival in Australia, within 2 weeks, you find a job, and then 4 weeks later, you realize, well, it's actually clashing with your timetabling, because you'll have to then pick and choose one, and studies has to be a priority. So how I would work is basically work backwards to this, settle in, figure out how things work, because any student coming from any non-Western pattern of education, it takes at least a good 3 to 4 weeks before you understand how referencing is done. Where do you go for support in case if you have issues with referencing assignments or maths problems and stuff? Once you've settled in, once you've gone through your first assignment, which technically happens within the first 3 or 4 weeks, then you start looking for jobs. And across Australia, and this is purely from my experience, and a lot more from Adelaide, I would say give yourself a good 6 to 8 weeks before you find something that fits within your schedule.
Yeah. Awesome. I think that explanation would actually relate to a lot of students who have attended our session. So thank you for that, Nishan. It's really helpful. The last question that we have is, can I continue studies face-to-face if the travel ban is lifted earlier? So I think what the student means is, can they come partially or halfway through to resume their studies on campus once the ban has been lifted?
I wish there could have been a straight answer to this, but
Yeah.
there isn't, because as we all know, and I'm sure the other universities that would have presented before me would have explained this, that this is an evolving situation. It also is important to note that it's not just about Australia opening its borders, it's about the countries that you come from are able to open their borders as well.
Yeah.
Now, directly answer your question, if and when the borders open, once you get to Australia, do you have the flexibility of studying face-to-face? The answer is yes. However, what we need to understand is that for the rest of the year, that's from semester to students that are currently studying or any new commencements, for the rest of the year, predominant number of classes are going to be online. There will be face-to-face delivery. However, we will have to make sure that there's social distancing that's being observed as well. Now, for example, if and again, most of the universities might have the same opinion or different again, but in general, if you look at it, when you have a tutorial, you can manage this class size of 15, 20, 25 students with social distancing. But when you have a lecture of 300 students, it becomes a challenge. So a particular subject, tutorials will be face-to-face, lectures may be online, maybe face-to-face. Because remember, social distancing will have to be observed until we have a vaccine or there is a different way where we can counter this pandemic. But having said that, I think the general consensus is that it will most likely be online studies till the end of the year. However, this situation can change. It's evolving every week, every day. There is a new way we're looking at this. So unfortunately, I can't say that it's going to be 100% face-to-face once students start coming into Australia. There will be more subjects that will have both face-to-face online, because irrespective the institution gives you the option of studying face-to-face or online, there could be some students who could be reluctant to actually put themselves amidst a group of students or amidst being in a crowded place as well. So we just want to cater to all cohorts of students. Those who are comfortable studying online and prefer studying online, that platform is available. Those who want to come to classes and attend face-to-face tutorials, that is available. Lectures at the moment are going to be online, at least for the next couple of months.
Okay. And just to follow up on that question, I think we've gotten one more related to that, Nishant. It says, can students continue to study, or will they have the option of studying online till February 2021? And then the most common one is, if so, will that have an impact on the PSW?
Look, PSW is something that sits with the Department of Home Affairs. We as institutions can't comment on where that will lead. However, having said that, there's a lot of gray area in these regulations at the moment, and that is why we are waiting on a more concrete explanation coming from DHA, which might happen in the next couple of weeks. Now, if you look at it, undergrad students, if they end up taking, let's say, 6 months of study online and then continue to be in Australia and study 3.5 years or 2.5 years, it still satisfies, well, on paper, the need of having studied 2 years in Australia to be eligible for a post-study work visa. However, there's no clarity on this because a situation like this has never risen before.
Yeah.
So because we are in this situation, we're trying to get a sense of what this means for all students. And because of that explanation or that certainty of an explanation coming from DHA, I won't be in a position to tell you that, yes, if you do 6 months online and then you do come to Australia to do face-to-face, you are going to be getting a post-study work visa. There's a lot of things that are being discussed at various levels. So I would say watch this space. In the next couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, most likely before the end of June, there will be an announcement made on this.
Okay. Thank you so much, Nishant. I think you've gotten to the end of the questions. Thank you so much for taking the time to answer it. That brings us to the end of the presentation. For all the students that have attended, I just want to remind you, we have put the link on our one-to-one session, which will start at 1:30. If you do want to speak to each of the representatives individually about your profile and about your progression to the university and the courses, please feel free to click on the link and register yourself. Or just come at 1:30 so that we can put you in touch with a university representative of your choice. I'd like to thank all of the universities that took the time to join us in this session and for taking the time to explain about the changes that are occurring. Nisha, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Same thing, Chris. It's going to be like, I think it's a great job done by all of them, and I'm thank you so much for the support. And
Yeah.
It was very, very informative, and we did get a lot of questions, and we are more than willing to help them out on one-on-one sessions. So please do be there at 1:30 so that we could facilitate inputting you to talk to the relevant university representative. So thank you so much. So Chrissy, yes. So
awesome. So that brings us to the end. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Nishan. We'll see you at 1:30 for the students that would like to have that briefing. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks, Nish. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.